welcome back to Open as we continue celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Our next guest is a Dominican Republic born, Bronx raised entrepreneur who is bridging the gap between El Campo of the Dominican Republic and the vibrant streets of New York City. He is the founder and CEO of Don Carvajal Café, a coffee company committed to community, culture, and sustainability while highlighting Dominican Republic within the specialty coffee market. Everyone, please welcome founder and CEO of Don Carvajal Café, Héctor Carvajal. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. That was a phenomenal intro. I can't do a better job than that.
Bueno, here's the beauty of what it is that you're doing. We're gonna really go into it, right? In your mindfulness, because everything that you've been doing has this level of mindfulness in it, right? And that right there to me is the main ingredients,
I agree.
right? So aside from how you became a roaster, a coffee roaster, we're gonna get into that in a minute. But I want to open up with just giving everybody a quick background on how you got here, because I do know that this was like a school project,
Right.
and then you had an epiphany.
Yeah.
And we're going to share that with everyone, but I also want to share the 3 C's in the process too. So, congratulations to you on owning your life. We'll start there. And owning your product and honoring your ancestors, right? Because today's theme seems to be about ancestors. And for choosing a path that I personally feel you're going to succeed tremendously. But as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, I know it ain't that simple right now.
No, it is not easy, but I've always wanted to be very purposeful about everything. I feel like growing up here in the Bronx, sometimes I had no purpose. At some point I was a high school dropout. I would try to go get a job, and it was just like, yo, you don't even have a GED. So it was like people weren't willing to even pay me minimum wage. It was almost feeling like I was worth less than that, and that to me was kind of crazy, And then I realized that as a person of color, as an immigrant, as all these things that we could be on here all day about,
right?
I
all
realized
these others,
all these others, you know what I mean? Like we're stacked against everything,
right?
But I didn't let that define me, you know
Right.
what I mean? And I'm just like, well, forget all that. I'm just gonna be human and do what I gotta do. And I realized really adding education to myself was the factor, because we
Right.
already have street smarts.
Right.
How can we get some book smarts?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then that's when I started reintegrating myself back into high school, then college, and so on and so forth. But the 3 C's is just coffee, culture, and community. You know what I mean?
I love that.
I was like, how can I change this, and what will make me different? Coffee is the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? Being born there and then being raised here, I realized we had all these coffees and we have really big companies here and all these brands, but none of them were really highlighting Dominican coffee. And I'm like, I'm from the Campo. Like, I've seen it, I've tasted it, I've drank it. I know it exists. It doesn't exist here. Then growing up Dominican and growing up in the Bronx, those are 2 communities that are all about community. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then I just grew up on that, kind of like what Ish was saying. It was just really growing up in an environment where that's not foreign to me.
Right.
I'm literally is a replication of my life, of
Right.
how I grew up, of the communities I was in, and then sustainability and the culture. You know what I mean? Like, growing up in the Campo, sustainability is actually a real thing. Like, when you're done with the plátano peels,
They could survive.
yeah, they feed that to the animals and stuff like
They're
that.
horticulturists.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
right? I said
Everything-
that right. Horticulturalists.
Everything
Yes.
is there. You
Right.
know what I mean? You live
Right.
off the land and all that good stuff.
Right.
And then, it's just taking care of the environment. You want to think about like the future generations. Like, I'm sure my grandfather thought about me and the decisions he made and how he inspired me, not knowing that he was inspiring me, but it's a combination of my life, and that's what
Okay,
Don
so
Caravajal
your
is.
grandfather's name is
Papazón Caravajal.
Papazón Carvajal.
That was his nickname. His real name is Catalino, but he's the person who inspired this brand. He's actually the person on the packaging.
Oh, he's the person on the
The person
packaging.
on the packaging.
Oh,
I
how
know we look
beautiful.
alike, and I know he's handsome, but I get it from him.
I want to just go back a little bit. You said something that really captivated my attention, and that is the street smarts and then applying school smarts to the street smarts, and that being a winning combination. Let's talk about that because it's real, and I think our viewers can afford to hear what that really sounds like, right? Because right now with the way social media is and the way people are trying to hustle.
Right.
Ain't nobody got anything against you being out there, doing what you got to do to get your hustle on. However, when you went to school, you started learning formulas. Right? So obviously that required some level of commitment and maybe even sacrifice because you had to apply yourself to the studies.
Right, absolutely.
How has that benefited you now?
It's a different approach. I think the first time I heard that combination was probably Jay-Z. And I was like, that's interesting. Well, I was already doing it, but then later I realized, okay, when you come from a certain community, if you think about it, the lady on the corner that sells empanadas and tamales and the person who does the ice cream truck, Mrs. Softies, these are all people who are entrepreneurs who are hustling. And if you're in Puerto Rico or in the Dominican Republic and you're a farmer, you're still a hustler and you still have a business. You have a product, you create it, you invest, you put the time in, then you sell it, then you flip it. You know what I mean? So we already live the entrepreneurial life. We're already hustling. Some of us are struggling. Some of us are just surviving. You know what I mean? So when I was in college, I learned this interesting thing that there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's people who do it because they have opportunity, and there's people who need it to survive. And the people who do it to survive are just the people who we know in our community, and the people who have an opportunity are people who probably have a good job, have a lot of money, and have an idea, and they invest in it. But a lot of us just do it to survive. And then I created Don Caravajal Café, not because I needed to, it was an opportunity because I was at a university on a scholarship, I had resources and professors, and I had $500 in my bank account. Really, in my credit card. And then I started it with that, you know what I mean? And I made this funky little bag, and I was like, to me, that was the best bag ever. It looks nothing like this.
Right, not where you're at now.
Not where I'm at now, but you gotta start somewhere. And it's all about taking that leap of faith and believing in yourself. And just combining those two combinations was really the factor.
So you started with $500.
$500, yeah.
$500. How many years ago was that?
That was 4 years ago.
4 years ago, and where are you now?
I am at like 250K, more or less, a year.
250K a year.
Yeah. That's like our annual revenue right now, yeah. Next year should be ridiculous. We're gonna start working with Montefiore, the local hospital system. We're officially gonna launch in Whole Foods by May 2024. So that's gonna be a big one. And yeah, man, I'm just excited to just really grow the company, bring in more people. I always have a thing for bringing in local interns and just people from the community. And I've noticed like you can seek people, but if people seek you, it's different.
Right.
Because it shows you their hunger and their drive.
Right.
And I love being able to open that door for people.
Yeah. And it's a different level of interest because you can tell the people who seek you, they're passionate about what you do. And therefore they're going to be passionate about what they're contributing, right? So, all right. But coffee community culture, right? So we spoke the coffee, we spoke the community, and now we're gonna speak the culture because we all used to just pressing the button and making the coffee. This is old school here.
It's old school. Yeah, it's old school. Clink. Yeah. So 2 years ago, I got connected to the founder and CEO of Mir. His name is Brian Pape. I was actually with him last week and this week. Last week in Seattle, this week in New York. And we collaborated on this. They reached out to me because they're like, yeah, you're Dominican. You're like the king of mocha pots, really of grecas. And then we reinvented an icon. Like everybody's household has this.
Everybody has one of these. I know my mom still makes coffee like this with this.
Yeah. And then we wanted to take a spin on it and just modernize it, just make it to the current day. Because we're in the specialty coffee era.
Right.
So it's like, how can we bridge the gap? When I got into coffee, my mom didn't really understand what I was doing. Like, what do you mean you sell people a bag of coffee for $20?
Right.
We buy Bustelo 2 for $5. You know what I mean? So it was that gap of like, I don't understand the financial difference and the quality difference. So then I started like getting grecas and making my coffee in it. And like, this tastes good, right? Like, you want me to change it like this, change it like that? So I started trying to translate what I do through this device, but I always grew up on this. And then we collaborated on making the modern version of that. So this was what came out of it,
So, I want to say first of all, like that it's black.
Thank you.
Because
we have
the
it
silver,
in we have the silver one.
You do have the silver one, but the silver one always ends up turning black anyway.
You feel me? You might as well start where it's gonna go, right?
Esto se ve contemporary.
Yeah.
All right?
This we're gonna get some awards.
So how did this partnership come about?
So I have a mentor of mine named Jason Propaganda from LA, and then he works very close with Mir. And then he was the one who really made the introduction. Initially, they brought me on as a consultant for this, and then we just really became like friends and family. And I have really close ties with the company, and they really wanted my input. You know, I've never felt, you know, when you're like, you feel left out, but I really felt like they brought me to the table, and they listened to everything I said, took all my feedback. You know how these handles break.
Right.
You know, they always burn, and your mother just throws you the chancla across the
Right,
room.
right.
I was like, guys, you need to make sure this doesn't burn.
Burn.
You know, so we need to use a material that does not do that. And then just learning so many things within it, you know, how to properly clean it, how to make it easier for the consumer, how to make sure this doesn't spill when you pour it. It's just so much factor. I feel like all of my ancestors' knowledge of the Greca and my experience went into this thing, because it's generations of people brewing this. You know what I mean? This came out in like 1930 in Italy, and then my grandfather used it, my great-grandfather used it, my grandfather used it, my mom used it. Here I am. You know what I mean?
And
So,
now you're part of this new rendition of it. Now, so do you have any rights to this? Like, do you get a percentage off of the sales of this?
we have
I know
more.
inquiring minds
Oh,
want to
no,
know
that's-
because
that-
you're an entrepreneur. So
That's
you,
that's a good question. I'm actually a brand ambassador from here, so
Okay.
we get paid in a different form,
Right.
And we collaborate in terms of products and grecas and stuff like that. So I have an annual budget for like merch and also for my contribution to the company.
very nice, and it's all associated.
Yeah, that's what I like about working with companies like them. They really make you feel like you're valued, and they provide so much more than I really think I'm worth sometimes. But you're worth it and much more.
Right. And then you know what? It's also going to contribute to the coffee.
Yeah.
Right. And so right now, with regards to the coffee, you did mention that the bags go for like $20 on the website. I saw, right?
16 to 20. Yeah.
16 to 20. And what we didn't share was all the different flavors. So
Mm-hmm.
before we go, let's share all the different flavors they have. And if you have any pop-ups coming up, because I know you have pop-ups where you do demos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the Dominican natural, the regular one. This is a wash Dominican Republic. We have a red honey as well. We have other origins too that are great. I've been to Colombia and built some beautiful connections out there, and also in the DR, of course. In terms of visiting us, right now we're working on a coffee shop venture. So we're
Nice.
gonna open one up. I'm not gonna announce it yet.
Okay.
Because it's not 100%. You know, when I sign the X is when I tell you.
Got it.
But in terms of finding us right now, you can find us in Westchester, not too far from here. We do the farmers market on Saturday and Sunday every week until November.
On Westchester Ave?
In Hastings,
In Hastings. The
Hastings
farmer's market on Hastings, but we
Hastings-
can find you on Westchester.
Hastings Farmers Market, and then the Irvington on Sunday. Yeah.
Nice. And
Irvington
in the
Farmers
meantime, they
Market.
can also visit you.
You could always order that thing, get it right in the mail.
Well, it's been really wonderful sharing this time with you.
Thank you.
Hector, you're forgiven too for not bringing me coffee.
I-
Especially because I'm the café con leche.
I mean-
And I mean coffee brewed, not coffee bag.
That's it. Listen, if I get the request, I'll bring the whole station over here. I'll bring the grinder, I'll bring the kettle. Matter of fact, I'll bring a flame and we brew it right here.
You know what? You know what? You know what? When you sign that X,
Uh-huh.
we're going to have you back and we're going to do all of that.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Say no more.
I'm looking forward to it. And we got to send light to Papazón Carvajal
Yeah.
because... you
Big
know-
homie.
Yes. We're sending light to the ancestors today. Thanks for
Yeah.
bringing it here.
Thank you,
Hector.
thank you, thank you, thank you,
Everyone,
thank you.
Héctor Carvajal.
Oh, look, that's him right there.
Oh, nice. Even the tag. Once again, for more information, you can visit doncarvajalcafe.com for everything we just discussed. Stay tuned. We've got our open artist spotlight coming up next.